and I started getting aroused at the sound of the music. And I remember thinking, oh my God, can you fucking ambience? Hey y'all, hey, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the ding 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 bell button so you get all of the notifications when I post new videos. So, let's get into it. So, today's video is inspired by a question that I received from one of my subscribers. So, what I'm going to do, I know I say so a lot, so what, okay? What I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to read the question, and then I'm going to give you a little bit on my personal experience and my own thoughts and truth and theories around answering the question. And then let's just get into the video because I be trying to be organized, y'all, but it works out sometimes. So anyway, let's just get to the question, okay? Okay, so it says, so I pulled up to the house after running some errands a couple of days ago, and as soon as I parked the car, all of a sudden I felt this burst of energy take over. Yes, I felt this on a very small scale, but this was very intense, overwhelming. It's almost like I had an internal orgasm without sex. Question mark, question mark, question mark. At this point, sex was the furthest thing from my mind. Is it a name for that? Am I tripping? Can you explain what it is? Thanks. Okay, so first and foremost, anybody who sends me questions will always remain anonymous unless you state otherwise in the email that you do not want to be anonymous. So for this question, I am going to say that is definitely a thing, okay? I think if you look it up online, it's called spontaneous orgasms, which I just recently learned about. However, I always identify them when they happen to me as sexless orgasms. And so my experience around that is that I may have mentioned in another video, I'm not always sure of what I talk about in other videos, but I know that I am clairaudient. And through having this gift, I know that sounds can bring me to orgasms. Different, a specific type of frequency or tone or rhythm of a sound can actually bring me into orgasm. And I learned this one time when I was out at a club, and literally I started getting aroused. It was a live band, and I started getting aroused at the sound of the music. And I remember thinking, oh my God, can you fucking ambience? Because I'm really getting turned on by this, okay? Um, and that's pretty much my experience with having orgasms that aren't related to sex. Um, Another thing that came into as I'm thinking about this question, right? That came into my mind is that is the reason why I stopped going to church. Anybody can ask you. Anybody who asked me, I would gladly let them know that I've always enjoyed church, as far as the music and the I just always did love church. My mom loved gospel music. I enjoyed gospel music with her, and I remember like coming around like my first Jupiter return into my early teens, going to church and feeling very aroused. Whenever they started playing music and stuff like that. And so, based on the teachings of the things that I was taught in church, I felt very uncomfortable with being aroused in church. I was okay with being aroused in general. However, I just was totally uncomfortable with being aroused in church. So I just ultimately decided not to go. And besides, I was 13, 14 years old. And like everywhere I turned, a new boy seemed to be in heat for me. So I had plenty of other ways to be aroused, and during that time in my life, the wind blowing could arouse me, okay. But yeah, specifically music I noticed did arouse me. Although I hadn't realized at the time, I hadn't really, cycled through that is why I wasn't going to church. I just knew that I felt uncomfortable being aroused. I hadn't connected the music and everything. I hadn't made that much of a connection. I just knew that I don't feel comfortable with having this feeling in church. So I'm just not going to come to church because I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it. And it just got heightened and heightened and heightened. And usually I walk out and I go to the restroom or something. So what I've learned is that it's pleasure that arouses you. It's pleasure that sends you in to orgasm, and it's the stimulation that causes this pleasure, stimulation of the senses. Therefore, the most seemingly innocent, pure, or whatever kind of label you want to use to dissociate from sex, any of those type of thoughts or feelings or experiences, innocent ones, can actually bring you into orgasm without a thought or a thought of sex or anything sexually related or anything sexually stimulating, period. Because arousal and orgasms, as I've learned, is more closely associated with pleasure and not specifically sex and not just sex. So coming into being older and going through my own spiritual journey, I've grown to create some of my own unique experiences around arousal, and it has come to my that these orgasms and orgasms in general, sexual and non-sexual, are more closely associated with pleasure. And as we know, pleasure is experienced through the senses: tasting, hearing, smelling, seeing, touching, feeling, all of those things. And so, in that, sex is just one form of pleasure, but it is the pleasure that brings you into orgasm. Now, once I learned that about myself, I am now able to do what I call conjure orgasms. Okay? Orgasm conjurer, that's me. And I don't have no issues with bringing myself into a spontaneous or sexless orgasm. I wouldn't really call it spontaneous because I'm expecting it to happen. I'm making it happen. However, I know how to do that through indulging my senses, through indulging my pleasures. I know that I can create orgasms, and you can too. So, to answer the rest of the question, you could have been having a pleasant thought or highway hypnosis, like a subconscious movie that was playing that caused you to, go into spontaneous orgasm. There's also a disorder that causes you to have spontaneous orgasms. However, what I've learned from those is those are kind of unpleasant, just from people I've known that have them. I think they're much better if you have control of them. Though I don't really know the differences and all of that type of stuff. I'm just speculating. But I'm sure with a little internet research, you can find all the information that you need to find now that you know what it is. Spontaneous orgasms. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I don't know too much about the uncontrollable unpleasantries of it. I just know the conjuring part of it, the ones that are pleasant, the ones that indulge your pleasure in your senses. Yeah, so that's it. Spontaneous orgasms, sexless orgasms are a thing. They're more closely associated with pleasure rather than sex. Okay? And then in my next video, or just one of the upcoming ones, okay, I am going to tell you how to take advantage of these conjured orgasms and what you can do. It's a little bit of custom sex magic, okay, that I'm going to tell you all about. So, like I said, subscribe, ding ding, so you can see me when I'm coming through. I love y'all. Y'all take care. And of course, I always want the best for y'all. It's your queen, your mystic, and your majesty. I love y'all. Bye bye.